Hello out there and good morning, traders. It is May 8th, 2024, and welcome to the Apteros Daily Market Insight. Let's dive into our recap and then we'll update our plan and levels for today. So, taking a look at what was going on yesterday, kind of a tricky situation. We were, very much aware of that in that we were looking at the bulls kind of running out of the risk reward landscape as they headed higher into this main target area. And that was kind of the main idea that we were looking at in the DMI. So we were kind of bullish above that line in the sand, bearish below, and kind of this move migrating up is what we were paying attention to. Now, the neutral area was kind of a tricky spot for us because it was, it's neutral in nature. But if we held above it, we are looking for the possible continuation into that target, and that was the overall plan. But once we got up into here, it wasn't necessarily an immediate, like, let's get short area. It was more or less pay attention to what's going on here, and then let's see what happens. If there's a contextual shift in the order flow, if something happens, let's pay attention to that. And you could see kind of what played out during the session. Coming into the open, we were already at that neutral zone, kind of playing around there, stabilized in this section here, and then kind of shot back up. We didn't quite make it to our destination. So seeing this kind of bearish activity really take over a little bit ahead of our target area, that's a pretty big kind of slap in the face saying, hey, you gotta pay attention to what the bears are doing at this point, because they're essentially front running the destinations in the areas a little bit. So it was really more or less, once you got this information, it was hands off in terms of the DMI, in terms of getting more long and so forth. And I had mentioned that in the DMI. The closer we got up into this area, if the bears took over at all, it was hands off, stay away, and kind of let this day move forward, and let's see what happens tomorrow. And that was really the best plan of action. Once those bears kind of activated in this section, there really wasn't any opportunity for us to continue to stay long. Maybe this low here, but it's so close to the end of the day without a real line in the sand test. Not really the best of opportunities in general. So just paying attention to kind of how things shook out overall here. Um, it was a good DMI in the sense that we had the general idea of what was happening, but the precision was a little bit lacking. So I'm going to try to do better with that. And overall, the actual environment is really tricky up here. The narrative isn't the strongest. The context isn't the greatest. So we definitely take that into consideration whenever we're looking at these positions and looking at these ideas and these different scenarios in our analysis. So now taking a look at what's kind of going on right now in the ES, we have a kind of tricky situation again today, in that this is really the main area that we're paying attention to with today's DMI. It's a rotational area or a balanced area for us right now in terms of the expectation. So the lower edge here is a bullish zone, and the idea here is that now that we're in this rotational state, you kind of do something like this, right? So that's really the main idea of what's going on in this particular area. Now, what's tricky about this is, since we're in this rotational area, since we're in this kind of zone, the line in the sand down below here, the main expectation with scenario one is that we rotate up this way. And of course, scenario two would be a full breakdown of that zone. You can see that if the bulls take over this market, we get back up to these rotational highs. That's the main target area for the bullish move. If it doesn't get there, whatever happens, the downside, if that breaks, has a little bit more of some open space to kind of continue lower. And if we do end up seeing scenario two, main target area really is that 61. And if you get a really bearish day for whatever reason, a continuation all the way down to here is kind of the next level of it, right? But the reality is that I was mentioning this to the students. Whenever it comes to the risk reward landscape, the bears have a more open space if they can get through the bull location here. So if this bull line in the sand doesn't hold or breaks down, then we end up seeing a little bit more of some open space for the bears. The bulls, however, if they hold this area and rotate back up, they start running into the same situation we were talking about yesterday. The higher this thing goes, the more the upper time frames have bearish ideas, bearish locations up above. So it's definitely something that we have to monitor as the coming days, unfold and so forth. But right now, looking at the expectations on today, this is really your main expectation, that we are rotational inside of here. So that's really scenario one is, bullish up to here, bearish down to here, and that's kind of the way in which we approach the session. Breakout scenarios would be really scenario two, and that's in either direction. So in scenario two, if we end up seeing a hold below, that would be the bearish breakout. And of course, if we get above, the bullish breakout. Now, the problem with the bullish breakout, like I said, is that it's running into some bearish situations on higher time frames. So you have to be aware of what's going on there in terms of the risk reward landscape before you can really get on board with being bullish in the ES right now, as far as our analysis is concerned. But we have a clear hurdle, let's call it, or a line in the sand for the bears to get through. If they are unable to get through there, we remain rotational, stay inside of scenario one, which is kind of the expectation back and forth here. And if that fails, then we end up looking for breakouts into scenarios 2 and 3, or just scenario 2 really, because it's just one idea just on either side of the market. All right, so trade well out there, mind your risk, and have a great trading day.